Why the judgment yesterday is because Nnamdi Kanu is an Igbo. Yes, it is because Nnamdi Kanu is an Igbo. You can't do it to any other tribe in Nigeria.
No, Maxwell.
Maxwell? Yes, I want to prove it. I want to prove it.
No, and I want to just say, wait, hold on. I want to say that it's important that we're able to not incite any form of aggression based on this assertion. So except you're able to prove beyond reasonable doubt, please don't make such assertions. We won't entertain that on the show, please. I think it's important that if you would make such an assertion,
I withdraw it.
Well, before we continue watching this very interview, please, this is the obvious truth. Nnamdi Kanu is being, judged or treated the way he's been treated today because he's an Igbo. And I'm repeating it. I'm standing on this very claim by Maxwell Okpara. It is obvious and it is glaring. It is very, very obvious. No one should even debate this. Kanu is being treated this way because he's Igbo, pure and simple. You can't, intimidate somebody for coming out on your studio to say the obvious truth. This is the obvious truth. Every one of us knows about this.
Good morning.
Well, Maxwell, we all know the details of what transpired so far in the Nnamdi Kanu case. As his counsel, although he had dismissed all his lawyers and said he would defend himself, now, a day after, what's your take? What do you think? And what will you recommend as the way forward? Of course, you can go on appeal, but the prosecutors can also cross-appeal. But what's your position on all that has transpired?
Well, I want to start by commending the people of Southeast, the Igbo people, for listening to us yesterday. We are calling inside the court, calling from courts, chatting that nobody should take laws into their hand because 80%, if not 90% of the people of Southeast, the Igbos, they are with Nnamdi Kanu. They know that Nnamdi Kanu is not a criminal, is not a terrorist. I want to commend them. That one is on that. Then secondly, Dr. Bat, you said that you know all that transpired yesterday. I beg to disagree. You don't know all that transpired yesterday. Because what you people, just like Vimbai commended the judiciary for allowing to stream the judgment live. Now you ask yourself, what stopped the judiciary from streaming the trial live so that people will understand what happened? But that one is a different ballgame.
Just a moment. I didn't say that I know what transpired. I was not in the court. When did I say I know all that transpired yesterday?
Okay.
I just asked you to react to what happened yesterday. I didn't say so.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
I was not in open court.
Sorry, I withdraw it.
Yeah.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. Sorry, sir. Now, I also want to call all well-meaning Nigerians to join hands into this matter so that the Court of Appeal will set aside this judgment. Doctor, but I want to tell you that as at yesterday, when the judgment was given, there in America, where our delegates were facing the U.S. Congress, one of the congressmen now raised this issue. He narrated the kind of injustice Nnamdi Kanu have suffered in the hands of Nigeria, as if the man is a Nigerian. So most of the times when you are talking, these people get information more than you. Let me just start by saying that Nnamdi Kanu has suffered the highest injustice any other person can suffer in the whole world, here in Nigeria, in his own country. One, he was enjoying his bail. Government, the prosecutor, who is prosecuting him, went to his house in Afaruku, unprovoked, and they killed 38 persons and left with the 13 corpses as we speak. As we are talking about, as a result of that, he lost their parents. Now, as if that one is not enough, Nnamdi Kanu ran away and deposed affidavits from Israel. My Lord, I'm in Israel. Look at the circumstances that made me to run away. The affidavits who have it is in the court file. Please, if my Lord can guarantee my security, I will come back to face my trial. While that one was on, he was unlawfully brought back to Nigeria here. And the United Nations, through their special rapporteur, gave a decision saying that Nnamdi Kanu is not a terrorist, Nnamdi Kanu never jumped bail, that as a matter of urgency, that Nigeria should release Nnamdi Kanu. They refused that judgment. Federal High Court in Umuahia look at all the whole matters we filed, and they said that Nnamdi Kanu should be released, and that federal government should pay Nnamdi Kanu 50 billion naira as we speak to you. The federal government has not complied with that judgment. The same thing applied to Enugu High Court and what have you. I'm not talking about that of Kenya. Coming back to Nigeria here, we continue with the trial. Then Court of Appeal unanimously discharged Nnamdi Kanu, and they said that no court should try Nnamdi Kanu federal government refused to comply with that order. And they kept Nnamdi Kanu unlawfully for 9 days before they now file what they call a motion for stay in a criminal matter, the first in history. Now, when they filed the motion for stay, the matter gets to Supreme Court. Supreme Court, in looking at all these things, Supreme Court made an decision. One, that Nnamdi Kanu never jumped bail. That court ought not have revoked his bail. And they condemned the attitude of military, sending Operation Python dams in his house and massacred many people there.
All right.
And they directed the Federal High Court, let me finish, let me make this submission. And they referred the matter back to Federal High Court to continue with the trial, with the intention that the matter will continue with the Honorable Justice Bintanyako's court. So when we get there, Bintanyako now recused himself. The matter now gave back to Justice Omotosho. Nnamdi Kanu took a fresh plea. That plea Nnamdi Kanu took before Justice Bintanyako is no longer effective. He now took a plea, a fresh plea, in a fresh court, starting de novo.
Okay.
Now that was where the issue of repeal law comes in.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, thank you very much for breaking it down for us this morning. Now, you said as part of your statement that a significant number of people in the Southeast are sympathetic at best to the plight of Nnamdi Kanu. Now, in the interest of public peace and in the interest of national security, how should this matter be managed, pending when the next decision, whether to appeal or not, will be taken by Nnamdi Kanu? I say this because I believe that at the end of the day, what we want is to ensure that we don't further incite people to aggression or to violence, and that we are able to have some peace in the Southeast. Also, I'd like you to comment on the situation of the sit-at-home order. In terms of that regard, would you ask that people return, or we are hopeful that we will see an end to this Monday sit-at-home order in the Southeast?
Well, I want to start by saying that the issue of sit-at-home, some people took advantage of Nnamdi Kanu's incommunicado and be issuing unnecessary order. When this issue started, Nnamdi Kanu personally sent me to Europe to go and talk to Simon Ekpa, that he should stop this sit-at-home. I think either in this studio or in another studio, where we also issue that whatever thing that you are doing, Nnamdi Kanu is not a party to it. Lucky enough, one day, the DSSS allowed Nnamdi Kanu to speak from the court. Nnamdi Kanu also made it very clear to everybody. That one is on that. Now, back to your question. The best way to handle this thing is for Court of Appeal to set aside this most embarrassing judgment aside and allow Nnamdi Kanu to continue with his agitation. And let federal government now call him. My brother, why are you agitating? So that, one, because yesterday, in the judgment, you are comparing Nnamdi Kanu's agitation with Boko Haram. Somebody that told you that, look at what I am fighting for. Look at what I'm fighting for. Instead of you to call the person, what is the problem? How do we feel that we can resolve this thing? I'll tell you, this is what gave rise to this agitation, this is what gave rise to this agitation. Then you address it. The agitation will just die naturally. Now, why the judgment yesterday is because Nnamdi Kanu is an Igbo. Yes, it's because Nnamdi Kanu is an Igbo. You can't do it to any other tribe in Nigeria.
No, Maxwell.
I want to
Maxwell?
Prove it. Yes, Maxwell? I want to prove it. Yes. I want to prove it.
No, and I want to just say, wait, hold on. I want to say that it's important that we're able to not incite any form of aggression based on this assertion. So except you're able to prove beyond reasonable doubt, please don't make such assertions. We won't want to entertain that on the show, please. I think it's important that if you would make such an assertion,
okay, I withdraw it.
Thank you.
I withdraw it.
Thank you.
I withdraw it.
All right.
Now, but people...
Okay, I'll let you land. Please, go ahead, Mr. Okpara. Go ahead.
So what the point, the best way to handle this matter as it stands now is for Court of Appeal to look at all the whole matters we file, which Nnamdi Kanu also file stay of the proceedings. Say, my Lord, please, these issues I took to Court of Appeal, they are fundamental issues. Please allow Court of Appeal to give directives on how to go about it. So, and the judgment was given. So now that the matters are in Court of Appeal, let Court of Appeal look at all these matters.
Okay.
We file affidavit of urgency. We look at all these matters and to see whether this judgment was delivered predicated on law or on an anger on personal hatred.
I think
Yes.
one of the sort of biggest elements that came out yesterday was, the absence of a defense. I think many people were anticipating beyond the justice and the court, the Nigerians were anticipating the defense, controverting evidence. And I'll just pick some of the evidence, for example, that was read out yesterday. This is as goes by the CTC. He said the defendant said, "I am telling you people to go into the bush, and wherever you see a military convoy, you attack them. Wherever you see a police convoy, attack them. They are human beings and they also bleed. Any person with a police uniform or any army uniform is an enemy of the people," end quote. So some of these things were things we would have wanted to hear addressed. As councils were, shall I say, reassigned to become consultants, but you were in the web. Can you give us insight into why we couldn't get a defense for, some of these statements that many people are hearing and are concerned about the nature of this type of language from somebody who's so influential that people listen to, that people will obey orders from?
Very good question, Mr. Vimbai. When you people started the introduction of the program, I was following it up. You made mention of a final written address. And Dr. Bat, thank God that Dr. Bat is also a good in this field, because I have been benefiting from his submissions and legal analysis. Now, defense is not compulsory that you will call a witness. It's not compulsory. Defense has to do with cross-examination. Defense has to do with you filing your final written address. Now, they tendered 34 exhibits. 34 exhibits, including Nnamdi Kanu's boxers, including Nnamdi Kanu's singlet, including Nnamdi Kanu's perfume, they collected in his room. Now, the judge relied heavily on is all those doctored video clip. And anytime they want to tender anyone, after playing it, they will ask any objection. Our lead counsel said, "My lord, we will object, but we will reserve our comment in our final written address." All these things are in the court record. This is how they tendered all the whole exhibits. And we plan to attack them on the final written address. Now, Master Nnamdi Kanu told you that, please, I'm supposed to enter my defense, but I want you to clarify one issue, especially the directive the Supreme Court gave that these people should amend their charge. They should amend their charge to reflect on the proper law. And the issue I raised, you said no, you must enter defense. I will address all those issues in the final judgment. Before we could say Jack Robinson, you foreclose Master Nnamdi Kanu. When you foreclose Master Nnamdi Kanu, what are you expected to do? You should order for address, because Section 36 talked about Administration of Criminal Justice Act. Administration of Criminal Justice Act cannot take over the position of the Constitution. Section 36 said any person that is facing criminal trial is entitled to adequate time and facility. What is one of the facilities? Final written address. And when we come to court
is he still entitled to that if the judge feels he's being unruly and he's abusive and... I'm just curious. Yes, you feel he's still entitled if he's saying that this court is rubbish, you don't know law, he should still proceed. Is that what the law says? Let me address you. See, you have to separate your personal emotion from the adjudication of a matter before you. That is why I said that judgment yesterday was predicated on anger. But I don't want to go into that. Now, Master Nnamdi Kanu said, please, my lord, I want to file my final written address to address some issues. You, on your own, foreclose him. And when you foreclose him, because once parties are closed their matter, you're expected to ask for a final written address. Except the parties on their own said, my lord, we are not filing any final written address. You're supposed to give them that opportunity of fair hearing. Let him file his final written address. You are not saying that you have used his motion he filed earlier as his final written address. Does that motion address all those doctored video clip that you accepted? Now, in all those video clips, the one that favored the prosecution, you take it. When they talk about the death of Gulag, the chief security officer of Imo State, who is the governor, said that no, IPOB is not the person that killed Gulag. Nobody killed Gulag. Gulag death was as a result of politics. That particular issue, the judge never evaluated. So I can go on and on and on and on to see. That was why someone like Engineer and some other person said that the judgment has already been written before the trial. And I concede to that. Now, the point we are making is that you give somebody, once in any criminal trial, we are talking about criminal trial,
especially the one that have a capital offense, where there is any iota of doubt, you resolve it in the favor of of accused person, and you are expected to prove your case beyond reasonable doubt. You cannot place your case on the weakness of the defendant. You cannot rely your case or your prosecution on the weakness of the defendants, assuming without considering that the defendant did not object, did not file any defense. Okay, the judge, under the law, you are expected to review all those evidence to say whether they are even admissible in the first instance.
Maxwell, two things. As a citizen, I don't think it will be a good thing to play the ethnic card. A lot of people do that, but you know, people who are less informed than you are, you leave it to them to play the ethnic card. And as an officer in the court of, in the temple of justice, you were talking about personal hate. You know, the court ruling was given in anger and all of that. Well, that again, you may be questioning the integrity of the learned judge in this matter. But the point I really want to make is that you were arguing that final written address and all of that. Well, you know that it's not compulsory. It's not an obligation. And a final written address does not replace evidence. The accused person, having rested his case upon the prosecutor's submission, the court must have considered that. But even then, the issue of fair hearing was addressed in that judgment. The certified true copy, 144 pages of which is out there. But people can review it from different dimensions. Anyway, but the court, if you read the judgment, you see that somewhere there, the judge was referring to written address. However, all those are matters of detail. I want to ask you, do you think it was actually a gamble, as the judge put it, that Nnamdi Kanu should not have rested his case on the prosecution and not allow his lawyers to continue with the job? He has Paul Agabi, FCN. He had Ikweazu, FCN. He had Paul Erokoro, SAN. These are very, you know, with a team, with people like you joining the team. And yet he sacked his lawyers without a proper understanding of the technicalities of that environment. Do you agree in retrospect that it was a gamble that failed to pay off?
Well, I want to start by saying that an accused person, both any party, both in civil and in a criminal matter, you have a right to defend yourself. And I am part and parcel of all that transpired. And I will not come to national television to tell you what transpired. And I can tell you that Nnamdi Kanu never sacked his lawyers. Rather, the lawyers withdrew. I can tell you that. He never sacked his lawyers. Rather, the lawyers withdrew. You see, Dr. Abbott, we have clients. And when clients was asking you some question, the law said 1 + 1 is 2. But in this my case, they are not saying that 1 + 1 is 3. What happened? A lot of things are involved in this particular matter. And the learner's sake, of course, we have the best of them. Nobody's paying Kalagabi. Nobody paid Kalagabi 1 naira. Nobody paid Onyechi as, and all of them, recorded them. All those, the 7 senior advocates, including those of us, nobody paid us. So when they said, okay, they have a discussion, very good understanding. We have a very good understanding with the defendant. He said, okay, let me just continue. I don't want to tell you what happened. Just like you said, as a worshiper in the temple of justice, there are some things that I'm not expected to come to say outside. But if you Nnamdi Kanu come to this,
you are not a worshiper. You are an officer. You are an officer, not a worshiper.
The point I'm making is that if Nnamdi Kanu had the opportunity of coming here to tell you what transpired in this matter, you will shout. But that one is by the way. What we are talking about is that, in fact, when an accused person, the defendant, have no lawyer defending him, that is when the judge must apply extremely caution. You are talking about fair hearing. I use final written address as an instance. Somebody filed a motion, and you say you are asking, you saw him in court shouting on top of his voice, "My lord, who asked you? Who tell you what law you do? On what law basis are you saying that I should not find my final written address?" My lord should have allowed him to find that final written address. Maybe that final written address would have addressed all these issues, because final written address is a part of the defense. So shutting him out and foreclosing with final written address, and they rely on all those laws, all those exhibits, which he was telling you during the trial that, my lord, I will address all these exhibits and tell you the reason why you cannot admit it. Because under the law, if a judge admits inadmissible evidence in the judgment, you can expunge it. You can expunge all those bits. The judge would have just given Nnamdi Kanu opportunity, especially when he was raising in the court. My lord, don't read the judgment. Allow me to find my final written address. What is the rush? Because justice rush, justice crash. Okay, what is the rush that you cannot say, okay, I'm giving you 2 weeks for you to file your final written address?
Maxwell, I know you are trying very hard to vitiate the judgment, but the best arena for this will be the Court of Appeal. Not of course,
really we're filing by Monday or Tuesday.
Aha, that's it.
Now, in this interview, what is Maxwell Okpara saying? First, this is the highest injustice in the whole world. Maxwell Okpara says the life sentence given to Nnamdi Kanu is the greatest injustice he has ever seen. He uses the term like global injustice, the highest injustice in the entire globe. This is the strongest and most repeated point. Secondly, he says the judgment was delivered in anger. According to Okpara, the judge who sentenced Nnamdi Kanu acted with personal anger and emotion, not law. That is what he meant by predicated in anger. According to him, he said the verdict was emotional driven, was influenced by the judge's anger, that he did not follow the evidence presented by the defense. To him, this makes the ruling invalid and biased. Thirdly, he insists Kanu is a political prisoner. I mean, everyone knows that, not a terrorist. The exact argument is, Nnamdi Kanu is not a terrorist. He is a political prisoner. I mean, if he's a terrorist, he has his office in USC, United Kingdom, and all of those places where he pursues his political movement. So, Okpara is saying that the government is punishing him for his activism and political speech, not for a crime. And of course, this is where I ask, what is the offense of this man? What is the offense of Nnamdi Kanu? Fourth, Okpara says the trial is really a war against Igbo. That's what he means by Nnamdi Kanu being treated the way he's been treated because he's Igbo. I mean, these are Okpara's own words. This is a war against the Igbo people. It is not only Kanu on trial, the Igbos are on trial. He believes the conviction is part of a pattern of ethnic political suppression. Fifth, he says the court ignored evidence from Kanu's legal team. Okpara claims the judge ignored key exhibits from the defense, rejected their documents, refused to acknowledge important technical evidence. He argues the court heard only what he wanted to hear, and it was all what the prosecution team presented. Sixth, he says the trial was not fully transparent. Okpara insists that many Nigerians did not see or know what happened in the court from the beginning. He talked about the process not being open enough. There was no live stream during the trial. Now, the judgment, he now had to, gather all the media house, the national TV news outlets to come and live stream everything. And this, to him, lacked transparency, which makes the judgment suspicious. Seventh, he calls for an appeal and national pressure. Okpara repeatedly asks for well-meaning Nigerians to join the push for appeal, for pressure on the judiciary, for the injustice not to be allowed to stand. He says the appeal will be strong, aggressive, and relentless. This is what he means. In summary of everything, he spoke with the tone of a man who had watched justice bend in real time. He said the judgment was not just wrong, but the highest injustice in the entire world. According to him, the life sentence was not delivered from a place of law, but from a place of anger, personal emotion, and bias. He insisted that Justice Omotosho allowed his past altercation with Kanu, or probably the one that actually happened on that same judgment day, to influence his ruling, turning what should have been a legal process into an emotion-driven verdict. Okpara argued that the trial did not follow the proper legal path. He said the defense evidence was totally ignored. I mean, on the day of that same judgment, Kanu, in several occasions, tried to actually speak or to make his, final remarks, but it were all denied. I mean, to him, procedures were violated and key issues were dismissed without fair consideration. But beyond the technical flaws, he made a much heavier claim that Nnamdi Kanu's trial is not just a trial of a one man, but a war against the Igbo people. And in his view, he said Nnamdi Kanu is being treated the way he's been treated because he's Igbo. Also, the conviction reflects the ethnic bias and political targeting. He described Kanu not as a criminal or terrorist, but a political prisoner being punished for his voice and ideology. He also questioned why the judgment was live streamed for the world to see. But the whole process of the trial was kept away from public view. To him, this selective transparency reveals that something was actually hidden and that the judgment was meant to be seen, not the process that produced it. Okpara called for calm, but also for collective resistance. Through the cohort, he urged Nigerians to stand behind the appeal, behind the justice for Nnamdi Kanu, insisting it will expose the flaws and overturn what he described as a judgment built on emotion, not evidence. And of course, we all know that Nnamdi Kanu has been transferred to Sokoto prison. That's where they're actually, keeping him for now. So in coming days, we will be getting updated about the movement of Nnamdi Kanu's appeal and whatever updates that comes up after this. So do me well to smash that subscribers button and of course turn on the notification so you would always get notified each time we bring in any new update. Thank you for watching.